Hello, welcome back to another episode of What is Syris reading this week? This week there might be some slight noise in the background because in my apartment they're cleaning the hallways right now, so you might hear a vacuum every so often. It shouldn't be too loud, I should be able to talk over it, but here we are, week 2. Let's get this started. First thing we got is kind of a classic, Amazing Spider-Man Civil War. This takes place in 2007, which is when Civil War was happening. And this is after he reveals his identity in Civil War 3 or 4. And it explains what's happening to him, why he decided to change sides, and what his thoughts are on the whole Civil War idea exactly, who influenced him to change the idea of being on Cap's side instead of Iron Man's. It's a good story. It's a little long, 332 to 338. That's probably longer than most of the ones you want to read, but it's still very good and worth your time to read. I give it about a 7.5 out of 10. Next is a direct movie tie-in, but a good movie tie-in, Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is Scott Lang Ant-Man from the movie and Nadia Pym. And you may ask, who is Nadia Pym? Nadia Pym is the daughter of the original Hank Pym when his wife was kidnapped, which is what made him become Ant-Man to find his wife. She was actually pregnant at that time, and she gave birth to Nadia, then died. Nadia was trained in the Red Room, which is where Black Widow was trained. So this story focuses on Nadia and Scott and their travel through the quantum realm. And it feels like it should end in the first issue, but it doesn't, which is really good because it's a good story that keeps going with twists at every single possible moment. It's just so good, and I can't explain enough to read this one. This is a 8.9. It's just, if you find this, pick it up to read it. It's so much fun to read. Next is the whole series. Well, besides number 1, and that is All New Wolverine 2 through 5. But this series, you could read them out of order. You could read 5 instead of 2, 4 instead of 2, but really, you don't have to read them in order, so we're going to count them all as individual stories. First is their Civil War II story, and this is the introduction of Gabby, who later takes the name Honey Badger, and she is X-23's clone. And she is a great character. She's so much fun. It starts from issue 7 and goes to 12, which 7, as some may know, is the first appearance of Honey Badger, or Jonathan, their pet Wolverine, who is so much fun, and later he talks, which is great. This story, where they team up with Old Man Logan, and it's part of Civil War II, so obviously, I forget his name at the moment, the kid that's the main story of Civil War II, he has a premonition. Old Man Logan's gonna kill Honey Badger. Well, let's see what happens. Pick this up. It's a 9 for me. Next, All New Wolverine, Enemy of the State. This one focuses on her getting a package, or X-23 getting a package in the mail. What's in the package? Her trigger scent, which essentially when she smells it, she goes and attacks people, just straight up going to kill. And that's why her mother died, is the trigger scent made her kill her mother. This one is a great story as well. The whole All New Wolverine story is great. So essentially in this one, she runs away. But she gets to a small town, and what gets released from the air? The trigger scent. And then she wakes up, everyone's dead in that town. So it looks like we'll have to find out what happened by picking this one up. This is an 8.9. Not as good as the first one, but it's still really good. Next is Immune. So essentially what happens in this one, an alien spacecraft comes and crashes into Earth. And this little baby alien says the name Laura Kinley, X-23's real name. And so everyone hears this and they're like, well, what's the deal with that? Then a virus starts spreading, and it spreads to everyone all over where's the island? In some island, I don't think it's Staten Island, but it's close to them. So this virus is spreading, but what's Laura got to do with it? This story is amazing. And then later they add Deadpool and him and Honey Badger talking, is one of the best parts of this whole series. Him and Honey Badger's reaction to each other is so good. I actually laughed really out loud when I first read it. It made me tear up because it was so good. This one, 9.8. All New Wolverine, Orphans of X. This one is almost a direct tie-in to the previous one, so this is the only one that you have to read the previous one to understand, because there's a scene where they go, get Dakin, and you're like, well, who's that? This explains the one from the previous one. So, the Orphans of X are these people that have been hurt by the Wolverines or Wolverine kids like Dakin, X-23, Old Man Logan, Lady Deathstrike, and Sabretooth. So they want to hurt them, but they don't know how. Except they do now. And this story talks about what's happening, throws in some twists that you wouldn't expect, and bonds between Dakin and X-23, since they're kind of siblings, kind of not. This is a great story. This one, a solid 9. Next is Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. Ben Reilly is really controversial. He is the Scarlet Spider, the clone of Peter Parker from the Clone Saga in the 90s. That's one I'm probably never going to read, so don't ask me to do it. He's just a mess of a character. If you don't know his backstory, essentially what happened is Peter was cloned in the 90s by a man named Miles Warren, aka the Jackal. There was about like 5 clones or something, I don't remember. The 2 most prominent ones are Ben Reilly and Kane. Ben Reilly, they did tests, and Ben Reilly was the original Peter, except he wasn't, because that'd be stupid. So he was there for like, I think 12 years or so, and he sacrificed himself. So he supposedly died. But then if you read the Clone Conspiracy, which I might do one day, I don't know. That story was meh. That was part of the Dan Slott Worldwide series. In the Clone Conspiracy, Ben Reilly comes back. You find out why he came back, and he's a new character. He's the Jackal now. Well, this goes right after that. And this ties up the Clone Conspiracy, what Ben Reilly's doing. It's definitely a starting point for him. It's kind of like a new starting point where he's going off in a new city and learning what to do. Kind of wish there was more to it, because it just sets up things, but what can you really expect from issue 1? I mean, it's okay, not the best. Maybe read it if you can like find the rest, so if you can find like 1 through 3 or whatever, but just by itself, it's like a 5, maybe not. No, you might think, well, that's 7, he's done now, but actually, I have one that I read a few weeks ago that's my favorite story of all time. I'm not a huge fan of X-Men, but this is X-Men, the worst X-Men ever. And it focuses on Bailey Hoskins. It's written by Max Bemis, and he is supposedly a normal kid until he learns that his parents are mutants. Well, what's he do then? So he learns his X power. He can explode, only once though, so he can't regrow himself. So if he explodes, he's dead. So Beast is like, well, do you want to join the school or not? And he's like, no, it's fine. I'll go somewhere else. So when he does, his parents get squashed by Sentinels. So he's forced to join the school. Then a bunch of things happen. Flashes forward into the future. Gives reasons why, like, Iron Man's still 30 years old after 60 years. This story is my favorite X-Men story, my favorite Marvel story, my favorite comic story in general. This is a 12 out of 10. Absolutely read this. Even if you just find the single issues, read it. It is the best story ever. That is week 2. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.